You hear it all the time, right? We have to cut tons of carbon. But wait a minute, our planet is being warmed by a whole bunch of different gases, not just carbon dioxide. So how in the world do you measure all of them with one yardstick? Well, it turns out scientists came up with this brilliant system. It's like a universal translator for global warming. Let's get into it.
So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle that whole idea of a ton of emissions. Then we'll meet the key players, the greenhouse gases we're actually talking about. After that, we'll uncover the universal translator that lets us compare them, see how the math really shakes out, and finally, we'll connect the dots on why this one metric is absolutely critical for, well, everything.
All right, so when we talk about cutting emissions, what are we actually counting? The unit that gets thrown around everywhere is the ton. It's kind of become the fundamental building block for how we measure our climate impact. But if you look at the official rule book, like in the definition of a carbon credit, you see something really specific. It doesn't just say 1 ton of carbon dioxide, it says 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. And that one little word, equivalent, is the key. It's the clue that unlocks this whole system.
Yep, that little E on the end of CO2e, that's our signal. It's telling us that we're not just looking at CO2. We are measuring the total warming effect of a whole cocktail of gases. This is the secret sauce that makes climate accounting work on a global scale.
And that, of course, raises the big question, doesn't it? If we're often talking about a carbon credit, how on earth does that account for other gases, some of which are way, way more powerful?
To answer that, we've got to meet the key players. Now, there are a lot of gases that can trap heat, but when it comes to global policy and climate accounting, we've really zeroed in on a handful of the biggest contributors.
We're talking about the big three. You've got carbon dioxide, or CO2, methane, CH4, and nitrous oxide, which is N2O.
It actually helps to think of them as having totally different personalities. CO2 is like the marathon runner. It sticks around in the atmosphere for centuries, just slowly building up so it becomes our baseline. Methane, on the other hand, is a sprinter. It doesn't last as long, but while it's out there, it traps a ton more heat. It's incredibly potent.
So you've got these completely different gases. How do you compare them? I mean, you can't just add 1 ton of methane to 1 ton of CO2 and say that's 2 tons of warming. It doesn't work that way. Scientists needed a universal translator, a way to convert the impact of all these different gases into one common language. And that solution has a name. It's called Global Warming Potential, or GWP for short. Honestly, this is the absolute cornerstone of modern climate accounting. You can think of it as the official exchange rate for greenhouse gas impact.
So GWP is basically a measure of how much heat a gas can trap compared to the same amount of CO2. And to make it a fair comparison, scientists picked a specific time frame. The international standard is 100 years. That time frame is long enough to capture the long-term effect of CO2, but also the powerful short-term punch of gases like methane. So the question GWP answers is, over a century, how much more warming does 1 ton of methane cause compared to 1 ton of CO2?
And these numbers aren't just pulled out of a hat. No way. They are meticulously calculated and published by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, which is pretty much the world's leading authority on climate science. This gives the whole system its scientific weight. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's put some actual numbers on this. This is where the science gets real and turns into a powerful tool for policy and markets.
And check this out. Before we even see the numbers, you have to realize this isn't just an academic exercise. This quote is pulled directly from a major carbon standard. It's the rulebook. It explicitly says you have to use the IPCC's GWP values. This is how the science gets hardwired right into global climate policy.
So with those rules in mind, here they are, the official exchange rates. By definition, CO2 has a GWP of 1. It's our baseline. Now look at methane. 1 ton of methane has the same warming impact as 28 tons of CO2 over that 100-year period. And then there's nitrous oxide, which is, wow, it's 265 times more powerful, just on another level.
Seeing it as a chart just makes it so clear, doesn't it? You can barely even see the bar for CO2. Methane is way up there, and then nitrous oxide just shoots off the chart. And this is why reducing even small amounts of these other gases, say from agriculture, which produces a lot of N2O, can have such a massive, outsized benefit for the climate. So we have this powerful scientific translator. But so what? Why does it matter so much in the real world? What does it actually let us do?
Well, it all comes back to that term CO2e, or carbon dioxide equivalent. The GWP is the formula and CO2e is the answer. It's the final standardized unit we can all use. So for example, if a project captures 1 ton of methane from a landfill, it can officially claim it reduced emissions by 28 tons of CO2 equivalent, 28 TCO2e.
And this one simple unit, it is the foundation for almost everything we do on climate. It's used in the voluntary carbon markets, by countries reporting their climate commitments under the Paris Agreement, in regulated cap and trade systems, and for every major company reporting its greenhouse gas footprint. It is truly the universal language.
You can see just how important it is at the highest levels of global policy. Having this common language, CO2e, is what makes international cooperation, like Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, even possible. It creates a standardized playing field so countries can actually trade emissions reductions and work together. Without it, you just can't have a global market. So, at the end of the day, that's the magic of this system. It lets us take this really complex mix of different gases, all with their own unique properties, and boil it all down to one single, understandable number. It gives us a clear, unified, and actionable picture of our total climate impact. Of course, once you can count something perfectly, the very next question is, what's it worth? Having a universal unit is the first critical step, but putting a price on that unit? Well, that's the multi-trillion-dollar question that the entire world is trying to figure out right now. And that's a story for another day.